What if I told you that the $1,400 a month you're currently spending on top-tier business software isn't just a waste of money, it's actually actively preventing your sales team from closing deals?
Right. I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive. You buy premium software to solve problems, not, create them.
Exactly.
But when we look at the data coming out of small and medium businesses right now, it's wild. The very tools that are meant to scale their operations are the exact things choking them out.
Which is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So we are looking at a stack of sources focused entirely on you, the scaling SMB owner, and we're tackling a massive operational bottleneck, which is CRM chaos.
Yeah, it's a huge issue.
We're pulling from academic research on AI-driven CRM solutions. This is from the World Journal of Advanced Engineering Technology and Sciences. Plus, some incredibly candid Reddit threads from local business owners actually in the trenches.
Those Reddit threads are brutal, by the way. Just raw honesty.
Oh, totally. And we've also got cost-saving analyses from RingCloud and Ibabra, along with a professional portfolio of an IT architect named Ed Becker.
And looking at this material as a whole, a really clear narrative starts to emerge. Treating your software stack like a shopping cart of disconnected apps is just a fatal error.
Right.
We're shifting toward a world of total consolidation, specifically through platforms like HighLevel or GHL.
But as we'll see, moving to a unified system is actually less about buying new software and entirely about the architecture behind it.
Exactly.
So let's start with the root of the pain, the disease that almost every growing business eventually catches. We call it the Frankenstein-tech-stack.
The Frankenstein-stack, yeah. I love that term because it's so accurate.
Because you don't start out with a mess, right? You start small.
Right, you just need to get things running.
Yeah. You need an email tool, so you grab MailChimp. You need people to book calls, so you sign up for Calendly. You need a CRM to track leads, so you just subscribe to HubSpot or Salesforce.
And then, you need landing pages, so you add ClickFunnels. You want text message marketing, so you add simple texting.
But wait, isn't that what tools like Zapier are for? I mean, you just string all those different apps together with a few background automations, and they act like one system, right?
Well, in theory, yes.
Yeah.
In practice, though, you're creating this highly fragile web of dependencies. The RingCloud data we reviewed shows that these disjointed setups are costing businesses upwards of $1,400 a month in pure subscription fees alone.
Wow, $1,400 a month.
Yeah. But honestly, the financial drain is actually just a symptom. The real disease here is data silos.
Okay, let's unpack that. It's like trying to run a hospital where the triage nurse speaks only Spanish, the surgeon speaks only Japanese, and the pharmacist speaks only German.
That is the perfect analogy.
Like, they're all highly skilled, but because the patient's chart gets lost in translation at every single handoff, the patient inevitably gets the wrong surgery.
Exactly. Let's look at the operational cost of that translation failure in a business. When your scheduling tool doesn't natively speak the exact same language as your email marketing tool, context just gets dropped.
Give me an example of how that happens.
Okay, so a lead comes in. They book a consultation. An hour later, they cancel it. But because Zapier misfired or, the API timing was slightly off, the email software doesn't register the cancellation.
Oh, no.
Right. So it automatically sends them a message saying, "So excited for our chat tomorrow."
Which instantly makes the business look completely disorganized. You're basically telling the customer before they've even paid you that the left hand has no idea what the right hand is doing.
Precisely. And then your sales reps are forced into what we call context recovery. They get on a call, and instead of actually selling, they spend the first 10 minutes checking Stripe for past payments, checking MailChimp for email opens, and Calendly for history.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. The context switching just destroys their momentum. They spend their entire day managing software rather than managing human relationships.
Okay, so if duct taping 5 apps together inherently breaks the data context, is the only solution to drop hundreds of thousands of dollars on custom enterprise software, because no SMB can afford that.
No, actually, there's a middle ground that has emerged recently, and it represents a fundamental shift in how small businesses operate. And this brings us to HighLevel.
Right. From the Ibabra and RingCloud analyses, GHL is framed as the ultimate all-in-one platform. It's built to completely replace that entire Frankenstein stack we just talked about.
Right, it absorbs everything.
Yeah, the lead management, the emails, the SMS, the calendars, the website hosting, the sales, funnels all into a single database.
And because you're collapsing 5 or 6 subscriptions into one, That $1,400 monthly overhead often drops to under $100.
That's a massive difference.
Yeah, you're seeing a 70% reduction in software costs almost immediately.
I have to call a timeout here, though.
Sure, what's up?
I was reading the academic data from the World Journal, and it claims that properly integrated CRM ecosystems yield a 245% return on investment.
245%, yeah.
That sounds like absolute marketing fluff.
Yeah.
I mean, how does simply putting all your tools into one dashboard more than double your financial return? What is the actual mechanism driving that revenue?
It's a great question, and the paper actually explains the mechanism beautifully. It comes down to artificial intelligence and unified data lakes.
Okay, walk me through that.
So in a fragmented stack, AI is essentially blind. It only sees pieces of the puzzle.
Right. Just the Japanese or just the Spanish in your hospital analogy.
Exactly. But when your calendar, your email, your text messages, and your payment processor all write to the exact same database, which is what GHL does, the AI can finally see the entire customer journey in high definition.
Okay, give me a real-world example of how that actually plays out for a business.
Let's say a lead clicks a link in your email, visits your pricing page for exactly 2 minutes, but doesn't book a call. In a unified system, the CRM knows all of that instantly.
Right.
So it can automatically trigger a highly specific text message 5 minutes later saying, "Hey, saw you were checking out our pricing. Have any quick questions I can answer?"
Oh, wow, that's incredibly targeted.
It is. It performs predictive analytics and automates lead nurturing because it never, ever loses context. That is where that 245% ROI comes from, recovering the leads that normally slip through the cracks of a fragmented system.
That makes total sense. It's like having an organization's operating system running flawlessly in the background.
Exactly.
But I have to push back again.
Go for it.
Because if this platform is basically a magical money-printing machine, why are there entire Reddit communities of business owners pulling their hair out over it?
Ah, you're referring to the HighLevel threads we reviewed.
Yes. We looked at trades, clinics, marketing agencies, real local businesses, and a lot of them are actively struggling. Like, leads are arriving from Facebook ads, but nobody owns them in the system because of poor tagging.
Right.
And business owners are buying these pre-built snapshots, which are basically generic templates, and trying to plug them in. But the templates don't match how the business actually quotes and bills in the real world.
That Reddit thread provides a really crucial reality check. Go HighLevel is an incredibly powerful platform, but it is deeply, deeply complex.
So it's not a magical fix out of the box.
No, the marketing might make it look like a DIY tool, but it is absolutely not.
The thing that really stood out to me in those forums was the silent killer of SMS deliverability. Business owners were furious that their text messages just weren't sending. What is actually happening there?
Well, it's a classic example of underestimating the technical environment. Telecommunication regulations have become incredibly strict to fight spam. It's called A2P, or application-to-person registration. If you don't configure your A2P compliance perfectly within the software, like registering your business entity, your use cases, your opt-in logic, the cell phone carriers will just silently block your automated texts.
Wait, silently? So the software doesn't even tell you it failed?
Often, no. The business owner looks at their dashboard, sees the reminder texts are marked as sent, and just assumes everything is fine.
Oh my God.
But Verizon or AT&T intercepted it at the network level. The customer never gets the reminder, they don't show up for the appointment, and the business bleeds revenue without even knowing why.
So it's not an all-in-one tool, it's an all-in-one big mess if you don't understand the underlying architecture.
That's exactly what it becomes.
Like, if the automation assumes a deposit is paid before a site visit, but your real-world plumbers do site visits first, the entire digital pipeline collapses because it doesn't reflect the physical reality of the business.
Exactly. And that is why the source material points us toward a completely different paradigm. If the tool is brilliant, but the execution is where businesses bleed out, you need a bridge. You don't need a software tutorial. You need an IT architect.
Which brings us to a fascinating professional portfolio we analyzed Ed Becker over at edbecker.pro. When you look at his resume, it feels almost completely out of place for small business software.
It's rare to find this level of foundational, enterprise-grade technical expertise applied to SMBs.
Yeah, I mean, Ed isn't a marketer who watched a YouTube video on how to set up a CRM. The guy started in early mainframes.
Which requires a totally different level of technical rigor.
Exactly. He has built mission-critical systems for the FAA, the Department of Defense, U.S. Customs, and NASA. We are talking about environments where a system failure doesn't just lose a lead, it creates a national incident.
What stands out in his methodology is that he doesn't just stay inside the boundaries of Go High Level.
What do you mean?
Well, GHL is the foundation, but the physical world is messy. To make it work, he uses advanced technical layers. He uses NAM for complex workflow automation outside the CRM. He writes custom JSON and JavaScript.
Hold on, for the non-technical listener, what does that actually mean? We throw terms around like API and JSON. Why does he need all that if GHL is an all-in-one?
Think of APIs as diplomats translating between two countries that speak entirely different languages.
Okay, I'm following.
Sometimes a business has a legacy tool they absolutely cannot get rid of. Maybe a highly specific quoting software for the construction industry. GHL can't natively talk to it.
Right, it doesn't speak the language.
Exactly. So Ed writes the custom API logic, the diplomatic translation, so that data flows perfectly between the two. And then N8N acts as the complex traffic controller, ensuring that logic is foolproof.
Okay, that makes sense. He's building actual architecture. But what I loved most from his bio wasn't the code, it was what he calls his pivot to people.
The realization that a perfect system is entirely useless if the human team rejects it.
Right. And I have to bring up the NASA story from his portfolio because it unpacks this perfectly.
Oh, that's a wild story.
So he walks into NASA headquarters for what he thinks is a standard one-on-one project meeting. He opens the door and finds an entire amphitheater full of their lead scientists waiting for a lecture he didn't even know he was giving.
Most people would just freeze or walk out. I know I would.
Right. But instead, he excuses himself to the restroom, calls his project manager, gets the brief in under a minute, walks back into that amphitheater with the manager on speakerphone, and delivers an unrehearsed, hour-long presentation on neural networks.
That's incredible under pressure.
And he gets a standing ovation from NASA scientists.
It's a great story, but the underlying insight is really what applies to our listeners today.
How so?
Well, a neural network is fundamentally about recognizing patterns across massive, seemingly unrelated data sets to predict an outcome and optimize a path.
Okay.
When Ed Becker architects a CRM for a local business, he is applying that exact neural network philosophy.
Break that down for me.
He maps the interconnected data paths of your business. If a lead comes from Google, talks to a receptionist, gets a quote, but doesn't sign what are the optimal nodes or touch points needed to convert them.
Right, tracing the actual human steps.
Exactly. He designs the software around the psychology of your customers and your staff. It's not about clicking buttons in an app. It's about mapping human behavior into a digital space.
Which aligns perfectly with the 3 pillars of his framework that we found. First is data integrity. Every tag, every historical note, every piece of context moves perfectly.
Yeah. And the second is automation consolidation, replacing the duct tape with seamless logic.
And the third, which goes back to the human element, is user empowerment.
Yeah.
He sets up the system so that your sales reps don't fight the software. It maps to the real-world process so the software works for them.
But let's address the elephant in the room here.
The migration fear.
Yes, if I'm an SMB owner listening to this, I might agree with everything. But the terror of the great migration is real. The fear is downtime.
Oh, completely. The thought process is, if I switch from HubSpot to Go HighLevel, my sales team will be paralyzed for a week, links will break, and I'll lose thousands of dollars in missed opportunities.
And it's a completely valid fear. Because a messy DIY bulk export of data from an old CRM into a new one is a guaranteed disaster.
You just dump a CSV file and hope for the best.
Right, and you lose the relationship history, the pipelines break, and the team panics. This is where Ed Becker utilizes what he calls a precision migration.
Contrast that for me. What is the actual mechanism behind a precision migration?
The fatal mistake most people make is moving the data first and then trying to build the automations around it. Ed reverses it.
He builds it first.
Yes, he meticulously maps out the customer journey and rebuilds all the automation triggers, the sales pipelines, and the internal logic inside Go HighLevel before a single piece of your historical data is ever moved.
So he builds the house completely, tests the plumbing and the electricity, and only then does he move the furniture in.
Exactly. Once the architecture is tested and bulletproof, he executes a staged data import. We can look at a specific case study from his portfolio to see this as action. The mid-sized agency.
Oh, this one is the perfect example. They were completely tech-locked. They were spending over $800 a month on a highly fragmented stack. I think it was a HubSpot Calendly Active Campaign.
Yeah, a classic Frankenstein-tech-stack.
Right. And their data was out of sync, Leads were constantly falling through the cracks, and they were terrified of transitioning because they literally couldn't afford a single day of downtime.
So what does Ed do? He maps their entire operation and transitions them over a single weekend.
A weekend.
A single weekend. The sales team logged out of their old messy systems on a Friday afternoon. On Monday morning, they logged into a fully functional, custom-built Go HighLevel dashboard. Zero downtime.
That's incredible. And the operational result.
Not only did they save over $600 a month in software subscriptions, but their lead to booking time dropped by 40%.
Wow. 40%, because the context recovery we talked about earlier was just eliminated.
Exactly.
The reps didn't have to check 3 different apps to know what the client wanted. 40% faster response time translates directly to closed deals.
It does, and he scales this logic flawlessly. Just look at the national restaurant franchise case study. This wasn't just a simple software swap. This was a massive enterprise architecture.
Unpack the AI voice routing on that one, because it really shows the difference between a software user and an actual architect.
Okay, so he built a 160 sub-account Go HighLevel structure for this franchise.
On 160.
Right, for all their locations. And he implemented a central 800 number powered by an AI voice agent.
Okay.
When a customer calls, the AI instantly references a custom knowledge base, identifies the caller's city and state through natural conversation, determines the correct regional store, and seamlessly routes the call directly to that specific store's dedicated sub-account and its local AI agent.
So he completely automated inbound phone routing at a national scale, operating 247 with zero human intervention required.
Exactly.
And he integrated all of that into the CRM. That is the kind of heavy lifting we're talking about. He handles the custom API integrations, the complex data mapping, the AI logic. He builds the engine so that the business owner can just turn the key and drive.
Which is the ultimate logical deduction of everything we've looked at today. Treating a CRM migration as a simple software swap is a fatal error. It requires the mindset of an architect.
So bringing this back to you, the listener, if you are an SMB owner feeling the pain of that Frankenstein-tech-stack, if you are paying for 6 different subscriptions, constantly fighting Zapier errors, and watching leads evaporate because your systems can't communicate.
It really is time to stop duct taping.
Exactly. Migrating to a unified platform like Go HighLevel will consolidate your costs and automate your revenue. But do not try to do it yourself. Do not risk breaking your business with a DIY setup.
Yeah, that's just a recipe for disaster.
You need to approach this like building a new facility. You need to hire Ed Becker to architect it right from the ground up with a precision migration. Go to edbecker.pro to review his methodology yourself.
I think the most important thing to take away from all these sources is a shift in perspective.
What's that?
When a CRM is built correctly, when the architecture is flawless and actually maps to human psychology, it ceases to be just a software tool. It becomes an active digital employee.
Digital employee, I like that.
Yeah. It works 24/7, never forgets to follow up, it never loses the context of a conversation, and it never drops a lead. If your current software feels like a chore that you have to manage rather than a team member that manages things for you, you have to ask yourself, is the tool failing or is the architecture?
Your software electrocuting you, or is it building the house? Think about it. Check out edbecker.pro. See you next time on The Deep Dive.